I'm a big believer in the power of real estate syndications for people who want to get started in real estate investing, but they don't want to invest a lot of time into it. If you don't know, a real estate syndication is basically investors like you pooling money with other investors to purchase a property that they perhaps couldn't do on their own. They're led by a team of general partners who make the whole thing happen, and they're a great way to invest. But there are some facts that you absolutely need to know before getting into it so you don't get blindsided. And that's what this video is about. I'm Calonge, a limited partner and a general partner in a number of syndications. And this video is intended to help you go into this with your eyes wide open, regardless of who you invest with. If you're unsure about what a syndication is and you do want to learn more, just click down below in the description, and I've got a video that walks through a high-level overview of what they are. So let's dive into each of the cons individually. Number 1, the minimum investment is usually high. Unfortunately, there's no real easy way to tiptoe into a syndication. Most have minimum investments of $50,000 or more, and for many people, that's a lot of money. If it's not a lot of money for you, then it's probably not as big a concern, but for many people, it is quite a bit of money. So that's one of the cons of real estate syndications, in my view, is that although they're great tools to grow wealth, getting started takes a little bit of courage, and getting past the fear of putting $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 into a property and seeing how it goes. I know when I invested as a limited partner for the first time, I was a bit scared, but I had a good relationship with the general partner that I was working with, and I felt confident in his ability and the team's ability to execute. So that really helped. Number 2, your money is illiquid. Okay, so what does this mean? Illiquid just means that you put your money in and the money has to stay in that form, and you can't pull it out, change it, deposit it, transfer it. You can't do anything with that money until it's done. So this is a long-term commitment when you're working with a real estate syndication. A lot of these projects can be 5, 6, even 7, 8, 9 years potentially. And for all that time, you really can't pull your money out. So it's important to make sure that you meet and talk to the general partners that are leading it to understand the business plan and exactly what are the expectations. When am I going to be able to see this money come back to me at some point in the future? So because of that, it might have some impact on your personal finances. You can't count on that money to be available, say for an emergency that happens right away, or some unplanned expense. So it's just something to think about. Now, if you absolutely need the money back, I do encourage you to talk to the general partner to see what options there are to potentially get your money back out. For example, they could elect to have another investor step in, or somebody that's already an investor can just put in an extra amount to cover the amount that you had, or even the general partners themselves might say, you know what, we'll absorb it. We'll go ahead and take it on our own. There's a lot of different ways that can be done with this, but I do encourage you to talk to a general partner about the options. But know that these are really exceptions, and it doesn't happen very often, and it's difficult. So it's better just to go into the mindset of, when I put my money into the syndication, it's staying there until the project's done. Now, the general partner is going to spend time with you, talking to you about the expected business plan for the property, but that business plan may change over the years. So say today they're saying it's a 5 to 6 year hold. You don't know what's going to happen to the market over the next 5 or 6 years. So potentially the market could be very different in 5 or 6 years, and they didn't anticipate it. And so they need to change the business plan a bit to make sure that they're doing the best with your investment. But that might mean lengthening the time they have it, for example. So just be flexible with it. When you go into this, think, okay, this money is no longer accessible. It's in there, and it's going to come back to me whenever it comes back to me. And that's probably the best approach you can take in terms of your mindset going into it. Hey, real quick, are you finding value in this video? If you are, please click the like button to tell YouTube that this is a valuable video for people like you will hopefully share it to more immigrants. Now back to the video. Number 3, limited diversification. Another con in my book has to do with diversification. Now, if you're investing the minimum amount on many syndications, then you're kind of addressing this already. And this is what I recommend people to do if they're really getting into real estate syndications big time. But if you've got, say, your first syndication you're doing, and you're basically putting your money on one property, one type of property, it's multifamily or self-storage or whatever it might be. You're putting it with one sponsor. So there's not a lot of diversification you can have with that. And you're probably putting quite a bit of money into that one investment that really isn't very well diversified. Now, if you're putting money into, say, 4, 5, 6 syndications, you're able to pick different properties in different locations, different sponsors perhaps, different types of assets, and you can definitely diversify that way. But when it comes to your first investment, that's just kind of how it's going to be. Number 4 is market risks. All right, so I alluded to this a little bit earlier in the video, but you're not going to know what's going to happen to the market over the next several years. And so things might be quite different by the time the investment is supposed to be wrapped up. And so things may change, and that might change the plan halfway through, which may change when you get your money back or how much return you're going to get, etc. So it's just something to keep in mind. Anything that's going to last years, really, you're really not going to have much of an idea of what's going to happen in the future. Just to give you an example, most recently after the pandemic, there was this huge increase in interest rates due to the high rates of inflation, and those increases that were done by the Fed 11 times in the span of, say, a year and a half were really unprecedented, and that's really made a lot of operators have to pivot their strategies. So this is something to be aware of. It's not necessarily good or bad per se, because it could be a change that helps you on your returns, which would be great. It's just something to know. One thing that I debated putting on this list as a con is lack of control. Now, limited partners, investors that are in these projects, don't have much control over what happens. And for some people, that might be a negative. In my opinion, I think that's a positive, because you're working with an experienced general partnership team that knows how to manage these properties. So who else would you want to have control but that team? So in my mind, that's actually a positive thing, that the limited partners don't have that kind of control over the property and the decisions that are made. I also like it that way because if limited partners did have a say into how properties were run, potentially you could have somebody that's a limited partner that's invested a lot more money than you had, and they have a much bigger say in how things are going, and they may elect to do something you don't agree with, and they don't have the experience either, so it might be a bad decision. So I think it's better, frankly, that it's this way, and I think it's going to benefit you as the investor too, that the experienced general partners are managing it and leading it. So those are my thoughts on the things you need to be thinking about when you're stepping into a real estate syndication. I think it's really a great way to invest, especially if you're a busy professional. It works, and it does a good job if you're investing with the right people. And investing with the right people is super important because you're giving them a lot of money to be able to lead an investment through, and you want to see a good return at the end. This is such an important topic that I created a 2-part series, and you can watch the first part right here. Thank you for watching the Immigrant Wealth channel.